All right, welcome back to Box Check. Today what we're going to do is I actually need to check the antifreeze coolant potency in one of my vehicles. The vehicle we're going to be using is a 2007 Ford Expedition. We drive this thing everywhere, but I checked the weather and it's supposed to get down to 18 degrees tonight, overnight. So what I'm going to be using is this. This is a peak performance antifreeze coolant tester, and this is going to measure the potency of the antifreeze. And by potency, I mean, what's the freeze point? And that's really what we're interested in. This device right here, I got it at just my local auto parts store probably 15 or 20 years ago, but it still works great. Okay, so before I use this device right here to check my own antifreeze freeze point, what I'm going to do is we're actually going to conduct a little bit of an experiment. Over here on the left, we have 100% water. In the middle, we have exactly 50% water, 50% antifreeze. And on the right, we have 100% antifreeze concentrate. And the reason we're going to do this test is I want to see how this thing reacts to these three different components. And it's going to really give you a visual aid on how this thing works. So the first thing we're going to start with is 100% water. So I'm just going to get this little hose in there, squeeze the bubble. And whenever I release the bubble, it's going to start pulling the fluid in there. There we go. And you just pull that up, and that kink right there keeps it from coming out. But the goal is you want to have enough fluid in there to where that it's past this line. This first dial, that simply just means they want you to have this thing level. They don't want you to test it this way or this way. They want you to test it upright. But as you can see, this thing is outside the parameters. It needs to be somewhere in here, ideally. But this thing is outside the parameters. This is 100% water, and that is not going to work. Now we're going to test 50% water and 50% antifreeze. What does that look like? Okay. So 50% water, 50% antifreeze is typically just the universal recommendation. And I think the idea behind that is you can't go wrong. If you're 50% distilled water, 50% antifreeze, you can't go wrong. Now I'm going to hold this upright and level, and you can see that our value, it looks like it's close to -20. The freeze point is -20, and that's a pretty good goal to shoot for in my climate. I've said this before. I have all four seasons, really hot in the summer. And as far as winter temperatures, lower teens is about as low as it gets here where I'm at. However, we do drive places sometimes. For example, my wife and I, we drove and we went snow skiing somewhere several hours away, and it was actually 8 degrees there. So just keep that in mind. So I think -20 is something good for me to shoot for. Now let's test this 100% antifreeze concentrate. Okay, 100% antifreeze concentrate. I'm holding it up and level according to that top needle, and you can see that it's just off the charts here. It's past -45 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, 50-50 is kind of what the recommendation is. It depends on where you live. If you're in South Florida, you could use a little bit more water, probably. If you are in Minnesota, you probably want maybe a little bit more potency in your antifreeze coolant. Okay, now that we've done that experiment and you see how this little device right here works, I'm going to check my own antifreeze. Okay, we're at my own vehicle now. Please excuse how dirty the engine is, but now we're going to check and we're going to see what the potency is of my own antifreeze. So I've opened up this reservoir. I'm putting that hose down in there, squeeze the bubble, let it go, and it's going to draw in that antifreeze. All right. Then I'm going to kink this hose, and let's bring it in and see what the reading is. So I'm going to hold it upright and as level as possible, and it looks like about -40. And that may be just a little bit strong for my particular area. So I would be good with like a -20 for where I live. But if it's -30, that's fine. So if I needed to add some fluid to my system, it's actually safe if I just add distilled water at this level. But I wouldn't want it to get to, let's say, anything above -10. I wouldn't want to get it up in that range. I don't feel like that would be enough protection. Again, it's supposed to be 18 degrees tonight. Who knows what it's going to be in January, but somewhere around -20 is what I'm shooting for personally. And a final thing I'll say is don't be misled by this color. So this is a Ford vehicle, and it just has this basic antifreeze water mixture, and it kind of has like a yellow tint to it. In that example that we were just now using, that was a Mopar. It's just got a really brilliant, kind of a pinkish purple color. It's just, it's antifreeze, just a different color because it is prescribed for a different brand vehicle. Okay, so now that I've done the test, I know that my vehicle is good to go. I'll actually release this hose and point it down in the reservoir, squeeze the bubble so that fluid goes back in there. And then I'll rinse this device out with water. That way it's ready the next time I need it. If you found this video helpful and you like the content, let me know in the comments. Also consider liking and subscribing. There'll be more to come.